All right, party people. This your man Grill. Yeah, it's a little late in the evening, morning, whatever, early morning. It's what, one something, I guess. All right, so y'all know I did the Fritter Friday. Somebody just asked a great question about giving legal advice and about the fact that I didn't say you should ask them what type of notarial certificate to use. Now, the reason why I didn't go into that was because I thought it was clear and obvious that since the document was an affidavit, it also says subscribed and sworn, so you know affidavits are statements of fact that they are swearing to, and that they have to be sworn in, put under oath, and then they sign it. If that's the purpose of that document, and the notarial certificate that goes with that document is a jurat, to me, that's obvious. That's what you should replace it with. One of the things that isn't clear, that is not communicated clear from a lot of TMCs, is that when they say, oh, you got to ask them in replacing the notarial certificate, you have to ask the signers, what do they want? Well, here's the problem. Most notaries don't know the difference between a jurat and an acknowledgement, which is one of the things we cover in the training. And if you don't know the difference between the two, how can you explain what they are? Now, this is just me talking in general. So the person who asked the question, this is not me attacking you, okay? I got to be clear, okay? I'm just responding back, trying to make sure I'm clear on why I didn't talk about, hey, you need to ask them. I know Florida law says you have to ask them, but now you have to ask yourself, in what context? What context? Now, if somebody comes to you with a document that doesn't have a notarial certificate, that is not clear whether it's an affidavit or just a regular agreement, and somebody says, I was just told to get this notarized, then yes, you need to ask. You need to explain to them the difference between the two, and then you need to ask them, then that way they can tell you which one. Or, to me, the better thing, and you can look at my comment, which I shared back with them, I would contact the not the content creator, the document creator, and ask them, what do you want? How do you see this document? But if they put a notarial certificate on there, then based on that logic, you would have to, every time you change the notarial, in other words, if that notarial certificate that's on there doesn't meet your state requirements, so now what you have to do is contact the people who created the document and ask them what notarial certificate they want on there. Well, it's sort of clear what they want on there because of what they put there. It's just not formatted in the manner in which your state would approve. So just because you can't use the notarial certificate doesn't mean you don't know what they want. It's clear what they want. They want an acknowledgement, or they want a jurat. The question then becomes, does the notary know the difference? Some notaries think affidavits are notarial certificates, and it's not. The affidavit is a statement of fact, and a jurat is the notarial certificate. Again, and this is not me trying to sell my training. This is just basic. The question becomes, have anybody ever said, use your chat GTP and say, what is the difference between an acknowledgement and a jurat? So the question becomes, then, what is the unauthorized practice of law? What is giving legal advice? Okay, so that's the question you have to ask per your state law. But the reason why I didn't say, hey, you need to ask them, is because in looking at the document, to me, it's clear what their intent is. Their intent is that this is an affidavit. It says they're duly sworn what other type of notarial certificate would fit that category? Now again, if your state law explicitly says that anytime you are changing out a certificate, whether it's pre-printed or not, whether the intent is clear or not, you have to ask them. But then my question is, in you asking them, are you explaining the difference between an acknowledgement and a jurat, so that they can be aware and knowledgeable of what the difference is, so that they can make a determination? If you just say which one you want, acknowledgement or jurat, and you don't explain the difference, then how can they articulate back to you which one they want to use? Now, the other side of the house that I've seen, people will do that and say, well, they need to select. They select wrong and say, oh, I want an acknowledgement on this affidavit. You got to go with it. But some notaries don't. Some notaries will push back and say, are you sure? The moment they tell you this is the one they want, there's no are you sure. It's use that and keep it going. That's what you have to do. So it's a great question, great observation, but because I hadn't planned on talking about that anyway. And honestly, it just slipped my mind about that. But I figured if you hear me talking about the fact that this is that, you understand the purpose of an affidavit, you understand it, then to me it's obvious. Now, I would love to hear your feedback. This is from anybody, but check your state law first and and find out what are the circumstances in which they're talking about this. Because you will have to ask, are you talking about on a loan closing or any document that already has the notarial certificate pre-printed on there? If the notarial certificate does not meet the standards for our state, in order for me to replace that notarial certificate with one that does, I have to ask them which one they want and why, when it's clear of what they want, because they pre-printed it on there. I mean, they put it on there, so why would the receiver of the document, not the signers, because the signers aren't the one who are saying this is the notarial certificate I want on there. It's the receiver of the document. So the receiver of the document has already indicated that. I know I'm repeating myself. Then you need to go back to them and ask the receiver of the document. Now, somebody comes to you with a handwritten note, that's different, because they are the creator as well as the receiver of the document. But the people who created the document, that's who you need to talk to. All right. So hopefully that cleared things up. Again, thank you very much for your observation. I do know I know some of Florida law concerning that. And on face value, you're correct. But I would say you should dig a little bit deeper in there to find out. That's all I do. I dig deeper to find out, is this the case? And I don't always take everything with notary law at face value until I see that's the value that I'm supposed to take. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.